Today we will discuss the basic ideas of Marxian thoughts. So yesterday, as we were discussing, it came as a response. Definitely, any kind of socialism. There are different versions of socialism. Any kind of socialism comes as a response to the capitalist system. In capitalism, there is freedom. Competition is believed to be just. Naturally, there will be inequalities, and this inequality is justified in capitalist system. This system itself needs to be overturned in the perspective of Marx. Actually, this is what we are going to see. Within that capitalist framework, if you are going to deal with the problem of inequality, you are trying to bring in inequality through some sort of measures, right, which are not so revolutionary. It's like maintaining the private property, maintaining, some of the tenets of capitalism, which believes like a competition, right, or some level of inequality can be justified. If you are saying so, it's never possible. Okay, so historically, if you see, there was some kind of socialism, which is, which was called as utopian socialism by Marxians. Why in utopian socialism or in that brand of socialism, it was believed that within a capitalist framework, trusting upon the goodwill of the capitalist, who is the owner of that factory or the owner of the private property, that they themselves will take some reforms to ensure the well-being of the workers. It's never possible. If you are giving that kind of suggestions to bridge the inequality, that sounds like utopia only, because no capitalist, no owner of the factory won't part with the profit that he is getting, even though that profit is created by the labor, the hard work of the working class. The value that is added, he won't be ready to share. He will be telling like, I have taken the risk. I am owning the private property. That's it. Any entrepreneur will say like that. He will say that I had the appetite to take the risk to own something, because when you own something, naturally there will be losses associated with it. Naturally, there will be profit associated with it. Only when you own something without that private property, without the ownership of machines, you will be telling like, I invested this much on these machines. So he owns it. Private property is there. He will never part with it. So rather, Marx calls his view like he propounded the views of what is known as scientific socialism. Scientific socialism means, there is nothing scientific associated. It is scientific means, he says, following the traditions of Hegel or Hegelian, he says we would analyze history from a an analytical perspective, how the history has transformed throughout the years. Earlier, Marx believes that earlier there was no notion of private property. Let's take the example of the forest dwellers, not owning any kind of property. Collectively, the resources, or what is known as the means of production, land, factory, they are all known as means of production. They're just like the capital. They are being collectively owned by the society. Okay, that is collectively owned by the society, and collectively owned by the people, and that represents the earliest period in the history. Means no private property, collectively held. They involved in some sort of activities like hunting, gathering, and all. Less scope to write this historical evolution. And then came the let's say the age of the age of feudalism. Landlords and serfs were there, peasants were there. Private property during agricultural revolution means, definitely it was a progressive step when it comes to humanity. Progressive step means, it's like, earlier we were unable to make use of the resources to their fullest extent of the nature. Simply you are hunting, gathering, the primary economic activity. And when it comes to agriculture, definitely it is treated as primary. But when you start tilling the lands, when you invent how to make use of the fertilizer, the nature, the productivity from the nature gets increased. Definitely, the one who is owning the land, maybe he will be having incentive, he will be encouraging new methodologies in cultivation. That's fine. So what happens is like with private property, inequality will be there. Inequality between landlord and the peasants will be there. But as a whole, if you think, it's a revolution, agricultural revolution. Agricultural revolution has taken the humanity a bit forward. Right? In the ancient Greek society, there was democracy. At the time, along with the democracy, the slavery did exist. But later times means, these kind of landlords, monarchs. We may think like it's something which is regressive in this. If you remember, beginning from Aristotle or in Aristotle and then in Hegel, we visualized change in an optimistic sense. Because historically, as time proceeds, the later stage is always better than the previous one. Earlier means there was no notion of private property. We can say that the society was egalitarian, but we were unable to make use of the resources in the nature for creating more material prospects, enhancing the material prospects. It was not there. Only when we harness, make use of the resources to the best possible extent. Right? So in that sense, as time proceeds, earlier no private property, no inequality, private property comes, agricultural revolution, inequality is there, but as a whole, you need to keep in mind that, the latest stage is better than the previous one. Got it, right? As a whole, not simply as a system. We'll think that earlier democracy was the later democracy is not there. No. After the Greek society means, okay, let's say rewind back to 300, 400 BC. Let's say the many, inventions in the agriculture means sometime later. Inequality is there. But the case, monarchy was there. But the case is that, yeah, there will be decline, some sort of decline when we, separately consider the form of government or separately consider there was inequality. No. Inequality comes, but it comes at a cost. Or I would say the material prosperity comes, it comes at a cost. Right? So agricultural revolution. We don't need it much. That's why, just have this idea. And later means what happens is like, even Hegel also argued in similar fashion historically. Even Hegel went on to the extent of arguing that historically Europe, Eurocentrism, Hegel argued in that way. Always his view of, this dialectical method was skewed or narrowed in the context of history of Europe. So that impacts, that influences will be seen in Marx as well, in that methodology. Okay, come back. So industrial revolution means humanity invented following the age of reason, scientific revolution, age of enlightenment. We had the industrial revolution means definitely it's progressive. We can create more and more machines, right? Production of more and more goods, no doubt. In comparison with agricultural revolution, it's better. French Revolution, Marx visualizes the French Revolution means, if you think as any revolution means, in history, in any period, a situation will arise where the conflict between thesis and antithesis can be reconciled, can be, sorted out only through a revolutionary change, revolution. The fundamental will be changing. Feudalism was a fundamental system that got changed to what is known as the capitalism. He says French Revolution was a response to then system in the history, right? That those material conditions created by the system and this transformation to the new thing. This is what we need, capitalism. Capitalism represents an economic system. Capitalism represents an economic system. Likewise, the feudalism represented an economic system. Even the collective ownership of the, let's say, the forest goods, the primary goods, they represented a kind of economic system because everything is collectively held. This economic system determines everything. In normal terms, we will say like money determines everything. Simple terms, money determines everything. Likewise, our everything else, when we say human relations, why two people are in, good relation? See, I'm not generalizing, but some people will say like, root of that is they belong to, similar economic structure. They would have born and brought up like that. Right? Even in arranged marriages, the criteria, that can be one among the criteria. And it's a reality. It's hard to accept, but that's a reality. Same class. Anyhow, so economic system. What are the, let's think about the political system, let's think about religion, social structures known as family. They are also part of human life. Okay, in capitalism, private property. Private property and at the same time, inequality, naturally inequalities. Right? So what is the antithesis inbuilt with it actually? Antithesis means a kind of logical contradiction associated with a thesis. Associated, it's there. Just like we told now, along with the being in Hegel, pure existence, it becomes indescribable. Being becomes as bad as not being, as a corollary. Likewise, capitalist system, you are having the freedom, you are having the, the private property, competition is justified. Automatically, the inequality gets widened. Few people are having welfare, at their disposal, or they don't even need to care about how the majority is. In Hegel, we have discussed thesis means let's say an ideology or an argument. A person is saying something. Antithesis means what is against it. Thus, anti means normal meaning. Okay. So, capitalism, private property. So, naturally, what is associated? There will be inequality. Many people, few people will be prosperous. It's likely that many people are not having any kind of prosperity simply because they are not possessing private property. This is a culmination of that system. Okay. So history, right? Hegel dealt with, the kind of revolution. Ideologically, after French Revolution, something else will come. And after that, that will be the age of nation states. Or just like we discussed in sovereignty, many new states will come. So Marxism will be focusing on this, rooted in this dialectic. History progresses through thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Now we are in the era, or while studying Marx, we are in the era where the capitalism is the trend. Naturally, there will be inequality. So everything is determined by the underlying. Everything will be determined by the underlying economic system. This is what is known as economic determinism or something. I will explain. Do you remember the view, that Marxian view, that state is a kind of unnecessary evil, or state is a kind of class instrument? State is a kind of class instrument which is meant to ensure, the superiority, or it is used to overpower the working class. Working class is known as bourgeois. Spelling likhna nahi hai. Bourgeois, something bourgeois. Sorry. Working class is known as the proletariat. Working class is the proletariat. The property owning class is known as the bourgeois. Bourgeois and the working class. Property owning class and, the class which does not have any property. Factories there, let's say. factories owned by the bourgeois, the proletariats. Many proletariats are working in that particular factory. See what is practically happening. Practically, what happens is like, he can do anything. The owner can do anything. If he feels like a laborer is not working properly or not sticking on to some of the directives, he can expel him any moment. There is no issue. And they are working. Bourgeois, the proletariats are working. Laborers are working. They are working and creating, let's say, some equipments. Making use of machines, they are creating many consumer goods. And let's say in 100 rupees, he is getting a profit of 100 rupees. Profit means after giving the laborers and all, the bourgeois is getting 100 rupees. The 10 laborers who are working there, they are given 1 rupee each. Bus. 1 rupee. Happens, no? When owning means it's like, let's say, simply, see, a proportion, you think about a proportion. Let's say in a company or anything, the company is getting 100 units as profit. See, this profit will be parted in the form of salary, wages to the workers. Let's say the company is deciding out of 100, 10% we will spend for, it varies from different business to business actually. So it's like, let's say 10% I will be parting in the form of wages. If in a business actually 95% has to be given in the form of wages means, maybe the capitalist won't venture into that kind of business. Because that's the reality. So it's like, minimal, very minimal wages. Actually, this is a natural thing, right? When a new economic system comes, the ones who are having some strategic control over some kind of property, they will get a windfall gain actually. They will become, very prosperous in a short span of time. And the workers even are not in a position. See, workers, when they are in search of job means everywhere something is underpaid, some kind of job is underpaid. They don't have any other avenues, means they will be just, doing without thinking, which they will be involving in that job. And suddenly, suppose the capitalist is saying today only 5 people will be getting job. You people decide among yourselves. It happens. Still, it happens in the case of unorganized sector. Just like team selection, out of 14, 11 people will be selected in cricket team. It's like in the last moment, we can see directly in some places actually. There will be some contractor. Yeah, and then in some places, if you are seeing the contractor in the morning will be standing, there will be many workers, and they will be telling like today 10 people will be getting job. Baki hum baad mein dekhte hain. So what will the workers do actually in that scenario? The workers will treat other workers as competitors. They will tell like, I need work bus. Even in 50 paise I can work. They might be competing among themselves. They may be forced to underprice their own value of labor. Capitalist will be more happy. He can hire more people at the same price. Nobody's mistake. We should consider these things as outcome of the system. We rarely think if we get some kind of success, how much the system or how much the privileges, how much better things that we get from family, we forget. We will tend to equate everything with our own merit. I am having this much merit, I did this hard work, मुझे ये चीज मिला है. But the so-called merit, ये होता है कि maybe the previous generation. If the previous generation in a family is not that much educated, one of them is more educated. कुछ नहीं. In one generation, if you get exposure in a good college or something, next generation पूरा change हो जाएगा. They will be prosperous. That's all. Some opportunities in life. That's all. So you can see as a natural outcome of this. This is a scenario. Whatever is happening is like the condition of, because of this, the condition of the workers are getting worse and worse. Right? This is the scenario. So in such a scenario, See, let's say what they can do. Let's say they feel like demand more wages, demanding more wages. What will the capitalist do? It is at his disposal. When will we give the wages actually in that situation? Capitalist will be giving wages only when, if he anticipates, you think from the perspective of the factory owner, only when he feels like they may come in a kind of protest. Anticipate, they will anticipate. Okay. And the other scenario means it's like if they are not coming in any kind of protest, or if he's anticipating, he will say like, okay, I can understand your problem. Let's say you will be telling like minimum wages 1 rupee, no problem. If you are working a bit more, overtime 25 paise or 50 paise extra. But still he is not ready to part with the 95% of the profits. Where does the profit come? Profit comes from the labor of the proletariat. Let's say, you are mining something, you are converting, the basic metals into something which can be sold in the market. So the labor adds value to it. This labor, who is owning it, sorry, the product, it can be sold in the market. When it gets sold in the market, let's say, both profit will get. This is known as surplus value. What is surplus? Surplus means extra. You put some effort, this basic raw material plus labor equal that which is sold in the market. Oh, yeah, surplus value. That will be more. Suppose the capitalist had invested 100 rupees for machinery, wear and tear, plus 5 rupees for wages. Baki he may be getting 10,000 rupees for that. This is actually surplus. And this surplus, he won't divide it with the employees. At the most, he will be saying like some marginal increment. Why? Marginal increment means he wants to retain the ownership completely. He wants to retain the complete say over it. And when I cited that scenario, even the working class may be competing among themselves in order to secure their jobs. This is also a possible scenario. They don't know they are being exploited. They don't know they are being exploited. That's the reality. In fact, they are alienated. You know the term alienation, isolated. They are alienated from the profit or the value they have created on that raw material. What translates into this surplus, the surplus value that is being created on the basis of their laborers' hard work is being sold in the market and is being appropriated by the capitalist in the name of profit simply because he is the owner of that private property. Whatever reforms that will be undertaken by the capitalists to ensure the so-called welfare of the laborers, they will be nominal only, namesake only. See, I am not criticizing the old system. We are studying a stream of thought. That's it. That's the reason why I'm telling like, capitalists will do like this, do like that. As a system, it's bound to come like this. That's why it is the antithesis. Naturally means this alienation of the working class, this is the antithesis. That's the reason why seeds of destruction in itself, thesis contains or thesis implicates the antithesis. Private property competition implicates inequality and prosperity of few and, deprivation for many as an outcome of this. Fine. Okay. So let's say you are saying state. State so what can state do? They will go to the state. They are going to complain. They are going to the court. Let's say the court will be saying, you have signed the contract. You have choices. There are other companies. You can choose other jobs. He is the owner of it. That is the root of that thought. It feels justified. You are having private property. That is totally justified. What will happen further? Again, if he is getting more money, means he will be purchasing more. Rich gets more and more richer. Suppose you happen to stay in any major city of India. that too in the aspirant phase. Therefore, you just see in particular, if you think about the case of Delhi or, the property owners means they will be owning something as ancestral property, last 100 years or something. And they earn like anything without doing anything. Matlab, not contributing anything to themselves, their economy. ये होता है ना system. But maybe a candidate who is coming, well educated, can contribute more to the system. But he is at the disposal of the person who is by sheer luck earning something. यही होता है ना, this is what happens. Reality तो वो है. But we won't have the guts. Nobody won't have the guts to challenge that system as a whole. हम क्या सोचेंगे? If you are going somewhere, seeing the competition, thinking, चलो whatever it may be, I need to spend this much time here. अच्छे से पढ़ेंगे. Once clear means. So that system remains intact, private property, because देखो, is not adding any value. Maximum, if somebody is painting, वो कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है. Not any intellectual work he is doing on that, not any physical work on that. Simply because he owns it. That's it. Likewise, factory owner. If you go to the state, means state also says private property is allowed according to the constitution. What is wrong with that? Right to private property shall be there. If you tell the court to create a legislation, sorry, the parliamentarians to create a list, they will take the petition. They will take the petition and say, we will try, we will persuade them. What will the capitalist think practically? If they are going to persuade the capitalist will be telling like, hello, I will give you 5 rupees in the form of corruption. You create a law, or you tell to create a wage board, something like wage board, so that he will feel the working class. Till now they haven't asked. They will feel like, okay, he's doing something. If you are rising in protest, if the proletariats are rising in protest, it's the duty of state, according to social contract, it is the duty of state to ensure the security. See, capitalist has done no wrong. Out of his intelligence or risk-taking capacity, उसके पास थोड़ा पैसा था, he has started multiplying it. What is wrong with that? He's making use of freedom. He is not intentionally exploiting others. I'm saying the beginning of capitalism, it will be like that only. Only when many companies come, when capitalists start competing among themselves, this inequality, just like we discussed the Kushner's curve, in a long term, it may get declined. It may, the inequality level may be, bridged. Okay, no need to go theory of justice. So state means, so if you are protesting violence, definitely the police will be arresting them. And even, the military force, paramilitary force, in the name of creating, what you call as armed rebellion or something. Why is protesting? Because it does not know that system itself, is the product of that system. It's not the product of that individual capital, the product of that system. Getting now, so the economic system is the foundation or the substructure, or institutions like, say, state, they are the superstructure. Superstructure means they rest on the substructure or the foundation. State is a class instrument, right? Now you are able to get it. Now why is saying so? State will stand by the side of the capitalist only. Nothing wrong. It's according to that contract only, bus. Right? States in which there is capitalism. Or state in which there is private property, notion of private property. You think about other family, just telling family as an institution. So if somebody is having private property, factory owner, if he's about to about to die. We will never think, nobody will think that I will, write it off in the name of, will nail it so that I give to my employees. Rare cases, but mostly institutions like family, they are meant to ensure that, the private property is not going into other hands. This is not even nepotism. Nepotism to in an open field hota hai. This one means they are giving to their, offspring, their children, that's all. So family means it is meant for that. Ensure that the private property is not going into some other hands. Religion. Religion means, what does religion teach? Marx says that religion teaches us obedience. Those who are born and brought up in religious framework, maybe when they become bureaucrats or officials working somewhere, according to Marxian thought, their thought will be conditioned in such a way that they will abide by the system. They won't question much. Somebody is being taught obedience right from childhood. So suddenly, you are told like it is best. Religion comes and teaches you like, non-violence is a virtue, whatever it may be. Let the enemy inflict violence upon you. You shouldn't think otherwise. It said that religion serves like an opium. What does the opium do? Opium may any kind of nasha, any kind of addiction. It detaches us from the reality, clarity of thought, false thought. Have you observed others? Not observed yourself, observed others. Maybe after having something like कुछ लेने के बाद, people will feel like, यार हो जाएगा, I will clear the exam. अच्छा प्लान बना दिया, क्लियर प्लान, मतलब in 3 months this many things I'll be doing. Next day, or maybe when people meet, we plan like we will go here there, सब कुछ बोलते हैं. Next day means कुछ याद नहीं बस. Not of clarity of thought, something detaches from the reality, clear thought, clarity of thought, right? When somebody is coming and telling you that, suffering is the path, the more you suffer, the more you are closer to God. So that institution also exists for the sake of rich. It can deviate human beings from clarity of thought. Suppose, let's say state is creating something like, we will ensure minimum wages, 2 rupee minimum wage. Okay, for the sometime it's like workers are okay, but the surplus value completely rests in the hand of capitalists. He needs that only. Religion, another institution, it comes and tells like, the more you suffer. Suppose there is a chance of any kind of thought of violence in the worker, listening to religious discourse, they will say there is a transcendental world. If you want to get the transcendental world, heaven, don't think bad about others. Never think about violence. Everything will come. And suppose the person who is delivering that lecture is having some charisma. Let's say, yeah, I got motivated. And it's like you work. Working is your duty. Work for the factory. Your duty is an end in itself. Listening to that, Marx says like, these things create a kind of false consciousness, wrong consciousness, that the capitalist exists for us as well, state exists for us as well, religion exists for us. Right? Suppose there is a war between Germany and France, in that times, two countries. In fact, the war is occurring maybe for some resource-rich province, which is bordering the both nations. this resource-rich province, that is, the capitalist private companies are having an eye on it in both the countries. The state may wage war for both of these companies. Got it, no? American company, sorry, French company, the German company. They are starting to fight. Workers, they are about to protest against their owners. French workers about to protest against French owner. German workers about to protest against German owner. War between two nations. Now the state will come and give a lecture like nationalism. We are all French people. We are all German people. Between us, that we are dealing with an external enemy. So please don't protest against us for now. We are one people. We come under same identity. We are French speaking. We are German speaking. You think about our ancestry. So don't protest for the time being. We have, war again. So nationalism, these nationalism, religion, they all create kind of false consciousness. What is even state, pledge, school pledge means they will say, any time nation comes first, they will say. But this war is meant for these private individuals, entrepreneurs. Got it? Now, so they are all, this is why I was saying the ground is the economic interest in order to continue the same system, capitalist system. All others are actually kind of class instrument to create, false consciousness. I won't say that they are intentionally manipulating. They are securing their own position, and each and every time they need to avoid a kind of uprising from the laborers. In fact, what is the reality? If you were in that position, let's say uh, these two countries are fighting, and the rulers are asking them to, you know, they are glorifying the idea of nationalism. Marx in this context only says the laborers, you don't have anything to lose, nothing but the change. The proletariats in France as well as Germany, proletariats across the world shall unite against the bourgeois class who is having the private property. There is no nation. There is nothing like nationalism is a false consciousness. Religion is a false consciousness. Everything is being created to perpetuate, continue this system through which many people were exploited by few who are having the private property. Fine. So what is the solution actually? If you go to the police will be against you. If you go to the court will be against you. If somebody is creating any sort of reform, what are they doing actually? They are delaying a kind of revolution, delaying the kind of revolution because they anticipate the revolution. Fine. Just think. Yeah, and it is natural problem that arises. That's true. Correct. Minimum wages. Yeah, even you fix minimum wages, no? In a Marxian perspective, it's like, see, this idea should be visualized in a particular scenario in then England when a new system came. Suddenly, when new systems come now, when we speak about artificial intelligence or when the computers came, there was a kind of disruption. There was a kind of disruption. That disruption means some people will, get huge profit out of it. Yeah, religions like that. No, no, no. खत्म नहीं हुआ अभी. See, in this scenario, right? What is the solution actually? What is the solution? We say solution may be right in this scenario. Let's say the proletariat and the bourgeois class and some other people, and these people, they claim that we don't belong here nor there. Let's say doctor, lawyer, teacher, whosoever it may be. So suppose they are taking a stand like we are not going to involve. Lenin, Lenin calls these kind of people as, let's say, some petty bourgeois. Those people who are neutral in this stream of thought, in Marxian stream of thought, when you say that I am neutral in this aspect, if you are neutral means, you are a kind of person who intend to delay an inevitable revolution. If you are not in our side, if you cannot understand the problem of proletariat, means you are on the other side. खाली आके lecture देते हो, you tell like through evolutionary method, through persuasion, we can make the change. They are on the other side actually. So in Marxian thought means, if you are not in my side, then you are on the other side. There is nothing like neutral. Revolution में यही होता है. You can see in many of the revolutions means when people say like, "Chalo, we will see some evolutionary methods through discussions we can try to change." No, in fact, these kind of people, they will reduce the the sharpness of revolution. At least some people get demoralized, or 100 people are going for a revolution. In between, they come in talk with a neutral person. He's not a bourgeois. Let's say lawyer is saying, "Chalo, I will fight the case," let's say, because he does not want a revolution in his place. So listening to this, out of this 100, some people feel like, "Chalo, we will look for some, these kind of measures. We will go by some evolutionary means rather than revolution." Hey, they are delaying the inevitable. They are on the other side actually. Whosoever delays, because revolution is must. Why? Because in the beginning, what happens is like when the capitalism comes, the workers are alienated from the products, the profit of their own work. Then they are alienated. They go, when you are worker, 6 to 9 somebody is working. Maybe while studying modern Indian history, there was a Factory Act in 1881 or something. I forgot. There means, the working hour was reduced to 14 hours or something daily. 6 days a week, 14 hours per day. Just think about them when you ask like How many hours should I dedicate for, daily? How many hours should I dedicate? They were working without getting any benefits. Okay, so 14 hour something. So the working class actually, some piecemeal approach again, it is going to be there. So they are alienated from everything, alienated from themselves. That you can relate, I think. Alienating from the surroundings. Pata hai, are you able to appreciate the climate that is around you? Are you able to spend quality time with your friends? Alienated from them. That you can relate, but this alienation is for higher good. Don't worry. You will be ultimately benefited. And alienating from oneself. मैं पता ही नहीं हमें क्या चाहिए, our own creative choices. A worker may be like that, na? He will treat himself as a machine who works for 14 hours per day. That's it. A bit into the existential zone. We don't know, right? Just like the Sisyphus. And kya hoga? Future means, earlier means it's like they may be competing amongst themselves. Later means when they come together, na, Marx says that when these people come together, they identify the same problems, discussions, exchange of ideas. Earlier means through ideas like nationalism, ideas like religion, the inevitable revolution or inevitable formation of development of class consciousness. Class consciousness means we as a class are exploited by them as a class. Private property owning class is exploiting us. Earlier, we unnecessarily competed among ourselves. We unnecessarily thought about the ideas like nationalism. Even after that war, our situation is not going to change. Kind of realization, class consciousness, this class as a whole, we feel like we are the bourgeois. Again, that statement is valid. Na? The workers have got nothing to lose. They have got nothing to lose but the chains that are created by the system. Nationalism, citizenship, no problem. They can unite. The proletariats across the whole country, whole world shall unite. See, in the hypothetical war between France and Germany, not only hypothetical, because you can see, private interest in any war. When they are being called up to the war in the name of nationalism, you say that it's a nationalism in each area. This is meant for the private interest of the entrepreneurs in the factory owners in this country and that country. Thus, workers are not going to anything out of it. Okay, you are not going to come and fight. Even early Wittgenstein fought the war, not as a proletariat. During fighting the war only, he wrote tractatus. और कुछ नहीं मिला लिखने के लिए, he wrote tractatus. Generally, people will be writing about the war. Tractatus, early position, picture theory. Okay, so they have got nothing to lose. So when this class consciousness comes through exchange of ideas between the bourgeois, they will rise in revolt. They'll rise then the revolution comes. What should we need in this revolution? It's a prediction actually. Marx belonged to 19th century. Then not any kind of full-fledged revolution was not there. We predicted a revolution will come across the world through which this system, this system will be totally annihilated. Who will delay the revolution? See, whosoever delays the revolution, inevitable, He's on the other side. This is the reason why those people who tend to be neutral, no? Neutral also एक छोटा bourgeois है बस. He's on the other side. Only one who supports you simply ना होता है ना. When there comes a scenario like the interests of these two people, these two groups are in the opposites always. When two people, two friends separate, right, or break up. ब्रेकअप में क्या होता है यार, मतलब देयर इज नो स्कोप फॉर रिकंसाइलमेंट, उस तरह का ब्रेकअप. इसमें तो ये स्कोप नहीं कि वी विल बी फ्रेंड्स. वो स्कोप नहीं है. मींस ऑपोजिट. दे कैन नॉट बी टुगेदर, दैट्स ऑल. बस. Likewise, you see the interests of the capitalist class. They are in the opposite. They need to continue the system. Working class, they realize that if this system is continued, we will be at the disposal of them. Bus conflict. They are in the totally opposite. So, what is the only solution? Only solution means they need to, totally overturn the system. That is revolution. But when you think about that, even the workers, when they think like they are having police, they are having court, they are having military, they are having weapons, we are having only our physical body, but through that physical body, they have created this much of value. Na? And the scenario in history will come, it's like, without revolution, we cannot move forward. Got it? Na? So, final culmination. Through that, the private property. Fundamental thing is that the substructure is the economic system, which justifies the notion of private property. This private property, this complete system, revolution means holistic change. If you say that we will create multi-party system, we will, nominate a laborer in the parliament, or it's like you say like you can create your own party, float your own party. Only the rich gets more and more powerful. That's it. It will create a false consciousness that we are, given some kind of concessions. This shall be understood in a time where, in a particular place, suddenly a new system is coming. Great, high level of inequalities there. We'll see from other side as well, but this view I am telling. What should we do? From where we can get the weapons? Proletariats, from where we can get the weapons? See, the weapons are there. Subject with the military, with the police. From where did they get that money to create that weapon? Let's say from the tax of the capitalists. How did the capitalists pay the tax? From the surplus value in the form of profit. Where did he get the surplus value? From the proletariat's work, physical work. Right? It's happening like it's our own property. Yeah, problem is that is been created by us. Take that weapons. We are many. Only when you feel that kind of guts, like there is no other way, this is the only way out, if people will have the guts. That's it. In this context, there is a view, there is some kind of anecdotes in Indian history. Robert Clive. Robert Clive was a kind of, he did a kind of show off. He became very rich after coming to India. Anyone who came to India, then they became very rich. Very rich through corruption. So he came and there is a painting. It's like Clive is standing, the then rulers, landlords, common people, they are showing complete obedience to many people. So in that, anecdote or some view of some historian, as far as I remember, he says like those people, now many number of people, had they taken one small stone, छोटा सा पत्थर लेके उसके ऊपर फेंक देते, the company would have left that day itself because they never knew their power. The people never knew, they never had that kind of feeling. So forget that. As a parallel, only something struck into me. So similarly, there are many few bourgeois have been prevailing over proletariat by creating many false consciousness, and that is rooted simply in private property. Everything is vested in that private property. If they unite and if they fight, violence is inevitable. See, it's like when they see the numbers, let's say 100 people are coming to a police station. कम से कम out of this 10 police who are there, 5 तो भाग जाएंगे कम से कम. Rest the fight will be trying to fire upon them. No problem. So after the revolution will succeed. Got it? Na? Revolution means many proletariats prevailing over this bourgeois. Okay, na till now. Then comes, still the state shall remain. State shall remain because state has been administering lot of things. We need a transforming phase. And this state means earlier the state was used as a class instrument to rule the proletariats. Here means the proletariats, what is known as the dictatorship of proletariats. They are the majority. Dictatorship of proletariat means they, earlier, because of their work only, the system has been created. The machinery has been created. For a cool-off period, we need the state. And that state, Marxian socialism, is equal to what is known as the single-party rule, which existed in the erstwhile USSR, or which is still existing in China after the revolution, after the Mao Zedong's revolution. Single party rule. Single party rule is equal to dictatorship of proletariat, and it comes soon after that inevitable revolution. We need state, we need that power, that system, because everywhere some elements of bourgeois will be existing. And even historically, we are not going to that. Rulers like Stalin have eliminated their potential competitors. In this way, anyone will do like that. Once you are into power, some people, the state will be ruled by what is known as vanguards of proletariat. Vanguard means some kind of intellectuals who are having higher capability. They don't own anything, but they have, how the system needs to be run, dictatorship of proletariat, that will be determined by them. Slowly but steadily, what happens is like the elements of the bourgeois thought, justifying them, that will vanish. Then you don't need state. The state will wither away. Withering means सूख जाएगा. And then, the ideal communist society will come. Ideal communist society means no private property, no this kind of institution, no religion, no state. The whole means of production are collectively owned by the society. That is the prediction. But ideal communist society has never come anywhere. And even in USSR, after the single party rule, that system disintegrated, the state disintegrated in the 91. And then they came back to some other system. Even there is no guarantee that the single party rule, some uprisings can come. They go how in, I don't know how many of you are aware, in the 1980s, late 1980s, in world history, there was some Tiananmen Square protest in China. Youth protested against, just like the Gen Z protest, in many states it's going on, there was a protest. So one night, all of these many protesters were killed in that square, that place. Next day means pura saaf, very clean. Means state may use the power actually. Dictatorship means any kind of voice you are raising against them. When you say that I need right to freedom of speech and expression, right to liberty, he'll say that they are actually ideals of liberal democratic state. That's bourgeois thought. No private property. Yes, thing. Right? Everything is determined by economy. See, even in normal terms, we say na कि court. When you go to the court, locally जब बात करते हैं, people will tell like जिसके पास पैसा है, they won't be punished by the court. Only poor people will be punished by the court. This is actually a kind of, I would say, this is a kind of thing that Marx is saying. The system exists for the rich. Got it? Na? It will be biased in favor. It's a natural outcome of that. But there are different varieties of socialism. Marxian socialism means strictly it is socialism. The means of production are collectively held. That state in a transformative phase, that is single party rule. And that single party is the workers' party. Bas, workers' party. Any system, any form of human association, they are products of it. Religion, state, nationalism. And you think. Hmm. Class struggle. Class struggle, not a solution. Class struggle is inevitable. Just like a class struggle is inevitable at one point in history. Yeah, not even reconciliate. It's the inevitable. See, revolution you are asking can be considered subjective. Means it's like not everywhere it is inevitable. No? Here, we are taking the pessimistic view of kind of, not, in the name of not taking any kind of risk. Pessimistic view of human beings. There will be good capitalists. There will be good capitalists, definitely. And we are having, in India, we are having socialism. what is known as democratic socialism, or Marx would call it as evolutionary socialism. Earlier, there was something like Fabian socialism. There means through reforms, state they can create reforms to ensure this through legislations. That seems to be the most practical thing. So at times we will feel like revolutionary is not needed. There were some meetings of this, people having these socialist thoughts, then communes meetings. Even Dadabhai Nauroji participated in one of them from India, as an Indian representative. Those experiments actually failed when workers across different countries united and discussed their common issues. No, many workers were pretty much okay with the system. They had a belief in their own states actually, their legislations, their parties. So they felt like we will go by evolutionary socialism. We are against capitalism, but we will go for evolutionary socialism through evolutionary means, not revolutionary means. I would say democratic socialism in India, Marx would classify it as evolutionary. Reaching the goals of socialism through democratic means. You see the part 4 in the constitution. Welfare. Right? Welfare state. From a strict Marxian perspective, you'll say like, you'll be asking like, judiciary, take the statistics. How many poor people have been punished? How many rich people have been punished? Definitely, poor people will be punished more. Or like the system is flawed. They will be citing crony capitalism, irrespective of the party which is going to rule. They will be getting money from the capitalists. Thus, will be citing that in any kind of LPG reform or any kind of free trade agreement, what is coming, it's in the benefit of the private property owning class only, capitalist class only. Get it? Not the poor people are not getting due benefits, and say like the level of inequality is this much, and they say that you are having welfare. Let's say you are having 1 lakh rupee salary, 50,000 rupees salary. You say like you are in a false consciousness. And I'll be telling like, तुमने एक second hand गाड़ी खरीद ली and telling like it's a I am in a very prosperous situation. Just see कितनी गाड़ी है उसके पास. This is piecemeal. In a strict sense, if I am saying, the system does not exist for you. Nothing can come out through evolution. Things will come through revolution. And the target is the ideal communist society that shall come. So that's why subjective. Got it, na? It's not necessary. In a critic side, we can say. But here, since we are discussing that, it's a bit extreme, whatever we are saying. Many things are relevant. The economic determinism factor, they are all relevant actually. Money determines a lot of things. We won't know the real game, what is going underneath. Yeah, fully communist means billionaires. See, in fact, China, even though it is claimed to be, that's a different case, claimed to be a socialist, there they are having state-sponsored capitalism. They need capitalists to have their sway, control over others. That is in the 1970s. India adopted the LPG reforms in 1991. China in the 1970s. Chinese economy grew like anything. The state is controlling, but at the same time, they promote some companies from there. It's like the common people may not be having freedom of speech and expression, political rights and all, some selected. So anytime, some kind of protest come, so we don't know, na. That's the reason why the West at times, those who are criticizing China, na, earlier means some years back, they used to give Nobel for them. But on Nobel lene ke liye, that party hasn't come yet. I forgot that case some 10 years back. Okay, got it. No? So we cannot bring in here, we are studying mere theory. No state is completely actually, China means if you see they respect their own traditions and culture like anything. Amartya Sen in one among his books, I think Argumentative Indian, he argues that the Chinese people believe that they represent tradition, they represent the, center of the world, represent the center of the world is, see, nation, as a nation, they have that God feelings. They were the kind of imperialism only, they need to exert their power. Okay. So coming back. So this is the system. Now you got it now. Why they call others as utopian socialists who trusted on the well-being of capitalism. No, that is the utopian idea. Gandhian idea of trusteeship, if Marx has been studying that, he'll be telling a utopian idea. Why should a capitalist part with his profit? Divide his profit with the workers. Ek do to hoga, but as a system, it won't occur. Other then means there was something like Fabian thought, Fabian socialism. Lenin. Lenin is only saying in the time of revolution, those people who are coming in between in the form of mediators, वो तो उस तरफ है. They also want to, they make the revolutionary mindset. वही है ना, अगर आप किसी को पिटाई करने जा रहे हो, somebody is coming and giving you a kind of advice, खराब लगेगा ना यार. You are thinking like some fight will occur. उसका एडवाइस के वजह से वो चला गया बस. So they will delay. They are on the other side. Okay. But the criticisms are very much actually, as you are asking, it's subjective. And what happened in Russia, practically, you see historically, 1917, you know that we'll be studying in world history. बहुत पढ़ना नहीं है, 10-15 पेज पढ़ रहे हैं. So Russian Revolution, the bourgeois one, sorry, the proletariats one, dictatorship of proletariat, and they came back. Na? In 1991 means the country got disintegrated into Russia. And new president came. They are continuing now. China. And even, you know about M. N. Roy. M. N. Roy in history. M. N. Roy, the founder of Communist Party, India, of India. M. N. Roy was a strong Marxist. And later means he himself says, while criticizing, Marxian idea forgets about the role of, the third class. Always, mostly we discussed about two classes. There is middle class, and it is forgetting the role of, the managers, the entrepreneur skill, the risk-taking appetite. They will take profit. You cannot completely say that the whole value is created by the laborer. No, nothing like that. Their managerial skill also matters, that gets turned out into profit. And later what happened is, like he says, the writing, Das Capital. Marxism turned out to be like a religion. Marx becoming its prophet, and Das Capital like its Bible, its sacred scripture. Means religion type का exclusivism जैसे हो गया. Means if you are not on the other side, not on my side, means there is no middle ground. Revolution means that only. If you think from a Gandhian perspective as well, can peace prevail after such a situation? Something comes out through violence means it's bound to continue. And see the autocrats, the Stalin turned out to be a kind of autocrat in USSR. The so-called vanguards of proletariat, the intellectuals in proletariats. Sorry. Yeah, proletariat, yeah. They created a kind of iron cage of oligarchy. Oligarchy means ruled by few. Iron cage means nobody else has got entry into it. Right? And how can we predict this? And kahin pe dikha hai kya ideal communist state? Nowhere we have seen like that. Again, I would go into one among the ideas like any kind of political ideology, it presumes human character in a particular way. Will human will behave like this, behave like that? We have seen actually, we'll see Mahatma Gandhi. There means human beings are inherently cooperative. Rousseau also believes human beings are good. थोड़ा सा innocence है, समझा देना ठीक हो जाएगा वो. And John Rawls ठीक है यार, it's fine. Rational self-interest. इतना भी selfish नहीं, rational self-interest. Neither overestimating nor underestimating. Here means it's like, we need to think about human beings. Now, once this thing comes, private property goes, the people who are coming, the proletariat class, overestimating the proletariats. See, their thoughts are also a product of the system. Deprivation, that comes from deprivation. Once they get power means how they will behave. History has shown. And Marxism, just like Hegelianism, you see, always everything is considered in an optimistic sense. Later stage is better than the previous one. See the age of enlightenment in Europe, scientific revolutions in Europe, age of renaissance in Europe. They are really good actually because the thoughts that came out that during those times and the inventions those days, they still have got relevance in the present day world. And the country, you see, कोई देखना है कि a country like Germany, where they had a thinker like Immanuel Kant, Kantian ethics. Hitler also comes from there. See, ultranationalism, nation as a thing, you treat something as positive. So age of enlightenment, वहां पे जो भी आया in later stage means ये होता है कि you see this reverse होता है. How can we justify that? Even in Hegelian thought as well, how can the justification possible there? Huh? Okay, right? So socialism, if something gives primacy for equality, we need to be clear about three brands of socialism only. Marxian socialism, we need to study like this. Good scoring area. This will be pucha, we were expecting as well. And then second means less likely utopian socialism. It's like, Gandhian idea of trusteeship only. Voluntarily, the capitalist is sharing or doing for the working for the welfare of others. And the third one means evolutionary socialism. Think about democratic socialism. Multi-party system, free and fair elections, subsidies, affirmative action, wage board, minimum wages act, or encouraging that. Right? What practically works, maybe it's a kind of, ethical capitalism. It's still there, good, capitalist with good work culture. And as I was saying in the beginning period, when a new technology or a system comes, 90% of the wealth may be appropriated in the name of the profit. 10% will be given as wages. Abhi dekho. When companies are competing amongst themselves, when they are hiring anyone, managers, workers, they will be looking for skill. When companies compete amongst themselves means they will be deciding like 30%. 30% we will be keeping as the profit. Less 70% we will be distributing as wages or the salary. They are as much dependent on the workers as well. Na? This is what actually the basic idea of. I was already saying, बहुत नहीं पता, I don't know much, but this Kuznetsov means initially it's thing like 90% of the wealth will be kept in the name of profit. As time proceeds, due to trickle down, due to competition, as time proceeds means this 90 turns out to be 30. 30 will be, roughly 30 will be possessed by the entrepreneur will be expecting that much only. Rest 70 means it will be given in the form of wages and all, skill development, and they will be spending more. Trickle down takes place. This is how it gets bridged in long term. Fine. Okay, na? Clear? So we'll meet in the next class.